All right. Hour number 2 of the show is here. Busy month so far with a bevy of interviews, and it just gets better and better each show. And to join us for the next half hour of the show, we got a good friend of mine and columnist for Examiner and a comedian in the Chicagoland area, Kevin Kellam. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Josh. How are you, man? The road to WrestleMania, dude. I'm geeking out, man. I'm feeling it.
I'm surprised I hear that. Usually around these days, everybody's like, oh, it's so predictable. And they still watch it. But
I love the sound effect. The part. Yeah, I'm a fan of it.
Well, it's just everything you see on the internet. That's basically the regular sound. But anyway, speaking of WrestleMania, how you been enjoying the build so far? Is there like any particular matches that stand out to you, or it's just the overall show is the main thing for you?
I think overall it's pretty different. There's certainly some parts that you can be critical of as a diehard fan, but I always think there's two different ways to look at it, and there's the way that fans like you and I perceive it, fans like you and I that listen to internet radio shows about wrestling and write columns about it and read about it consistently, just like, Bears fans want to read up about the Bears all the time. Mm-hmm. We're diehard fans. And then you have those casual fans who just, hear that Cutler's back. Whereas, those diehard Bears fans were reading about whether or not Cutler was going to be back like 3 or 4 months ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's I think people that are a little bit more critical of it, especially with WrestleMania, have extreme expectations for it. Mm-hmm. Because it is that gold standard in pro wrestling. And I don't care who you are in wrestling or what you do at any level, you want to be a part of the show. And because it's a pop culture phenomenon. It's the biggest crossover. It's the Super Bowl. Everybody who puts on a pair of cleats in the NFL wants to play in the Super Bowl, and everybody who puts on wrestling boots wants to wrestle on WrestleMania. So those expectations are really high. But I think even though people are complaining about the predictability of it, I don't think there was a problem 20 years ago. I mean, I think you knew Hulk Hogan was going to beat Andre the Giant when they did the third WrestleMania. And I think on a bunch of shows, you kind of knew, you knew Stone Cold Steve Austin when he broke through and had that huge WrestleMania with Mike Tyson and Shawn Michaels. You knew he was going to win. It was his ascension. It was the rise of that new big star. And we live in an era where so many guys get going, and you think they're going to be that big guy, and they get that big title win, and then it just kind of goes away. And there's certainly been that case with Daniel Bryan, who is the man to look at going into this WrestleMania, and certainly will be the featured player. He's the guy that you will talk about going into this WrestleMania, and he's the guy that fans will talk about coming out of this WrestleMania, whether or not they're casual fans or they're diehard guys like you and me. He's the guy to look at. He's the uniting factor. You got dudes eating corn dogs with me at the squared circle and eating pizza wontons who loves Daniel Bryan. And there's little kids who have traded in their John Cena T-shirts for Yes T-shirts. He has a wide appeal. He's the guy to look at. And I think his story, though it is predictable, it seems like he will leave this thing finally with that unfiltered moment, because he's just been so beaten down by the machine, by the man, since SummerSlam, that he'll finally get his moment. And it didn't seem like he was going to get that moment earlier this year. It seemed like he was going to play a supporting role. But I think WWE's finally gone back and forth with it. I think a part of me says they bury him. I don't believe that, because he's simply just been such a critical part of the television for the last year. Mm-hmm. I don't buy that. And you talk about fans complaining about it being predictable and this and that. I don't know what you expect. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to make it. They've made it as twisty and turny as they possibly can, with still giving you the payoff. And this year, it's harder and harder to do the payoff simply because they have so much content. You know what I mean? Like they're doing a lot of different stuff on a 3-hour TV show, and then there's SmackDown and all these different things. And the way the stories are going to be told now with WWE Network, and hopefully if fans do get accustomed to it, and it does become the baseline for premium content, where they develop to pushing everyone to the the network to get the pay-per-view, or in this case, premium event. I don't think it'll be called a pay-per-view. It'll be a premium event, or they'll give it some other name.
True.
It'll change the story. So I think in the last year, I think they've teased it, and a lot of fans just frustrated. Like, are they going to pull the trigger with Daniel Bryan? And I think that's where there's still that hesitation. There's still fans who I hear, even I think one of your pals Between the Ropes was discussing this, where he still thinks they're going to find some way to screw him out of the title. You know, like they've been doing for the last year. And I just don't think it. I think you're going to get the payoff with it. And all the other things on the show, I think, are exciting. I think Hulk Hogan being a part of it, even though he's not a huge part of it, it feels right. You know, it's just a sentimental thing. I think with WrestleMania, I think playing into sentiment and nostalgia is really important since it's it's 30 years of WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. I think the match with Brock Lesnar and The Undertaker, the build is there. It's simple build. But I don't think with Undertaker matches at WrestleMania you need to do more than just create the sense that maybe this year someone can beat it. I don't think with Undertaker defending his undefeated streak at WrestleMania, which is now, 22 years in a row, 21 years in a row?
Yeah.
Everyone thinks Undertaker's going to win. That's predictable, right? But once you get that first close fall, where the referee's hand is about to come down for 3 and Brock Lesnar just hit him with something real big, the match will become captivating once the match becomes the match. I don't think it's something that needs a ton of build. You just need to know that Undertaker thinks he can do it, and Brock Lesnar thinks he can do it, and sometimes wrestling doesn't have to be much more complicated than that.
True. Predictability is done right for the right reasons. That's how I look at it. We're here in the Pro Wrestling Experience every Wednesdays, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Talking to Kevin Kellam, also a host from the Rumble Radio Show. One of my favorite shows I got to listen to back in the day. Are you guys coming back anytime soon?
Yeah, we're it's not guaranteed, but we're talking about doing. We do an annual WrestleMania show. We don't have a website anymore, but we do have a Facebook page. If you look up Rumble Radio, it was a show I did in the mid-2000s, and we had a lot of fun with it. It was a very humor-driven show, and we had a lot of big guests on it, but we try to do a show before WrestleMania. I think we'll do one. I don't know for sure, but certainly if we're going to do it, we got to record it soon. And we've done one every year since the show went off the air in, I think, 2009, 2010. So we should have one, and we call it Mania of Wrestling. What a creative title.
Yes, definitely. You know, especially for us being here in Chicago, it's I in my opinion, I think Chicago outdoes New York in as far as passion and fan base for wrestling. Whether for the independent side, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and then of course with the mainstream wrestling wise. But our hometown boy is the talk of the day every single day. I mean, people spending hours out of the day just to see what he talks about on the Zombie
Show. Who is this hometown? Josh? Who could you be talking about? Who could you possibly be talking about?
This guy named Mr. Brooks. Is his name Philip? Phil Brooks?
Oh, well, there was some guy on AMC the other night. He was on the AMC talking show. Of course, you're talking about CM Punk. Mm-hmm. The man, I'm actually in Wicker Park right now. Maybe I'll run into him. Maybe he's out here somewhere.
Cool.
Yeah. The situation with CM Punk is such an odd one. I mean, there's so many people that want to say they know what happened or what is going to happen, what isn't going to happen. There's simply so much we don't know about it. I mean, the fact is, this guy went home, and for whatever reason, we for sure know that he doesn't want to play out the rest of his contract, which is confirmed to end in July. And he has dealt with a bunch of different injuries. He's wrestled through some injuries, and he's made it a public thing, very public. He's always been outspoken. He's always been a fairly transparent guy that he wanted to main event WrestleMania. Now, that's all speculation. Now, did this guy go home because he wasn't going to main event WrestleMania? Did he go home because the planned match that he had with Triple H at WrestleMania this year was not to his liking? I don't know. I don't think anyone knows except him and the people that actually know. And no matter what, I don't think we've seen the last of CM Punk. I think we will see him wrestle again. I was confident that if we were ever going to see him wrestle again, it would be in WWE. But the longer he's not in WWE, the more I think there's a potential for him to go and do what he wants. He's such a loose cannon. He's not a guy who's driven by money, and he's made that clear. I mean, he's throwing away a ton of money by not being a part of WrestleMania this year. And the most money you can make in pro wrestling is being in those, last 4 or so matches on a WrestleMania card. I mean, there's a lot of money that's being left there. And, there's no proof that he's leaving just for creative reasons. We don't know if it's a money thing. We don't know what it is. All we know is this guy's not happy and he's not playing ball, and he wanted to go home. And I think, especially after the Raw here in Chicago on March 3rd, if he was going to come back, that's the scenario. There's no better place to bring him back. You mentioned that Chicago crowd, how crazy that crowd was. I was at the show. I assume you were there as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you knew what that crowd wanted, what they wanted to see, who they wanted to see, and they wanted to see, CM Punk come out, the Rebel, and really, with the power of a pull of sausage and a deep dish pizza, put his feet into Triple H's face, right? We didn't get to see it, but at the same time, WWE never promised it. They never said this guy's going to be here. They never gave you a clear illusion that he was going to be here. And certainly the news situation with the most credible wrestling journalist, Dave Meltzer, gets from two different sources that CM Punk's going to be there and he's not there. And I don't think it's any situation where you can blame Dave Meltzer and the Wrestling Observer, or you can blame any journalist. I mean, there's plenty of things that happen in the sports world, and people just listen for sports where we think something's going to happen and it doesn't happen. Where you think that guy's on the DL, he's going to play on Sunday, and he doesn't play. And it's just a matter of where it is. How many times do we think Derrick Rose is going to come back with that first knee injury, and he simply didn't come back?
Yeah, Tom Thibodeau says he's barely even close to return.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, I think this year with the Bulls, just to put it in like a wider perspective, so we can include everybody that doesn't know what's going on with men in spandex. You don't know when Derrick Rose is going to be back. And the only people that know that Derrick Rose is going to be back, or if he ever comes back, is Derrick Rose and the people close to him and the people in the Bulls organization. The only people that know that CM Punk's going to make his return to WWE is CM Punk. And I don't think WWE knows when he would be back.
True.
Now, certainly they want him back. They like him. It's clear. They like this guy. They put him in some critical situations, but he's a guy who knows what he wants. And he's earned a certain level of credibility with the fans. I think the longer he stays away from the picture, the longer he stays silent about the issue, the more he loses credibility with the fans, especially his fans, because his fans wanted to see him, and they wanted to see him come back into Chicago, and they wanted to see him do his thing, and do it on that WWE stage. And those are fans that followed him from when he was, an indie sensation on the internet to a mainstream big name star.
Yeah, definitely. We do have to go to a commercial break. However, when we do come back, me and Kevin are going to talk about a product that we do know and love. AEW's having their 10-year anniversary show this Friday at the Burn Eagles Club, and we'll talk about that when we come back. PW Show on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. Welcome back, everybody. PW Show on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. Still on the air with my friend Kevin Kellam. You check him out on Twitter at Kev Kellam on Twitter, and check out all his awesome articles on theexaminer.com. You recently just got to do a comedy show with Marty Throsa at the Square Circle. How was that?
Oh, well, thank you, dude. I've been doing comedy. I've been doing the radio and the wrestling journalism thing now for a long time, since I was in high school. I do comedy with a group called Hot Cup of Comedy. We perform regularly at the Ashbury in Little Springs, and we're now trying to do fun stuff in the city. Last month we did a wrestling-themed show called Hot Cup of Mania, since our show is Hot Cup, and we do it in a coffee house. And we did all this fun artwork. There was wrestling thing. We made the comedians look like, classic 80s wrestlers. It was really, really cool. And as we were doing that, the Squared Circle, which you know of, is a great wrestling-themed restaurant at Fullerton in Ashland, a couple blocks away from DePaul University. It's just the mecca of wrestling. It's great pizza. It's wrestling on the big screen. It's a sports bar for pro wrestling nerds and geeks like you and me. And I appeared on a radio show that they did with Greg Boo, who is the events director, and, of course, Lisa Marie Varon, the greatest female wrestler in Chicago history.
Yes.
And Lisa and Greg said, well, why don't you do a comedy show here? I understand you have a comedy show. We've seen these flyers on the Facebook. And I said, sure. And we did it. And thankfully, I got Marty to do it. A lot of wrestling fans should know Marty from the web series he does with Cole Cabana. It's called Worst Promo Ever. And Marty is also, besides all the fun wrestling geekery he does on the internet, he's one of the funniest comedians in Chicago. So we were really spoiled. We had a lot of great comics, all of them wrestling nerds and geeks. We had a packed house. It was a really, really fun time. And we'll be doing another one. We just don't have a date set. But Squared Circle, one hell of a place. I mean, this Thursday, they're going to have Jim Cornette there. The great wrestling manager, and certainly a guy who has a spot waiting for him in the WWE Hall of Fame at some point.
Oh, man, he's going to be there tomorrow?
He's going to be there Thursday night, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
All right.
But you guys can follow Squared Circle on Twitter and all that fun stuff. And, of course, if you're looking for a great place to watch WrestleMania with the environment of an arena, you're going to get pretty darn close with the Squared Circle. And the food's great, too. I suggest the pizza wontons.
Yes, definitely. Check out Square Circle.
Yeah.
Another fascination that we got here in the Chicago area besides the Square Circle is AEW, which runs their show out of Berwyn, Illinois, and also in Bourbon Street in Marionette Park. We got the 10-year anniversary show this Friday, and we got 5 matches so far announced. Tony Rican just announced a couple shows last night. The returning Alex Shelley will take on Silas Young. There's going to be a pick your partner tag team match with Shane Hollister taking on Cole Cabana. We got Merrick Brave, a long-standing member of AEW, taking on Knight Wagner. Interesting ladies match. We got Heidi Lovelace taking Silesia Sparks. And one of the matches probably for the year is going to be the Tag Team Championship match with Michael Elgin and Ethan Page, Men of the Year, taking on the Irish Airborne. AEW just knows how to outdo themselves each and every month, and it gets bigger each show. And how are you excited for the 10-year anniversary, Kevin?
Well, like I said, I get to do all this fun wrestling stuff, and one of the most recent fun things I get to do was contribute to AEW as a backstage interviewer and do some things on camera for them. And just being around the organization, everyone loves to wrestle for this company. There's some indie wrestling companies, they put on good shows, but some guys just don't like to wrestle for it. Maybe they have a bad experience or just doesn't fit or what have you. Being around the guys in the AEW locker room, they love wrestling for this company. Mm-hmm. And they love wrestling for this promotion. And to be, first off, an independent organization that has 10 years of stuff underneath their belt is impressive. And AEW also has a very good track record. A bad AEW show is another wrestling organization's best outlook. You know what I mean? And so just to be around it and be behind the scenes just a little bit, I mean, I don't want to know. I'm still a fan. I don't want to know what the finishes are sometimes when I'm there. I want to be able to, look at the monitor backstage like I'm a fan, even though I'm seeing this with guys who just came out of a match and be able to do some of the things they do. But AEW, it's a really great time for the promotion right now. We're doing a lot of great new things. And that's credit to Mike Pekovich, our executive producer, and a new partnership we have with a new Roku channel. If you have one of those Roku top media boxes that connects to your TV, you can now watch AEW Wrestling on Roku. You can look up the channel. It's Matty G TV, or you can just go to aawrestling.com, and we have new episodes, an hour-long episode every week on YouTube and on Roku for you to watch through Matty G TV. All the information at aawrestling.com. Really great show. You mentioned the card right there. Alex Shelley is just coming off a great tour with New Japan Pro Wrestling. This guy wrestled in the Tokyo Dome at the beginning of January. You're talking about a top international talent. And now you get to see him against Silas Young. Pretty much the best free agent in pro wrestling right now. That match alone, worth your money.
Yes.
Then you get one of the funniest guys in pro wrestling, one of the most charismatic men in wrestling, Colt Cabana against Shane Hollister. Shane Hollister is a pretty serious dude. Any dude who has a tattoo in the side of their head is not someone to mess with.
Yeah, former guest on the show here.
Yeah, and Shane's a bad dude. He's just a mean, gnarly guy. He has to make no excuses for the things he does. And it's going to be a really fun match. And I like the idea, especially after Shane kind of sneaking out of the recent match that Colt had with Shane a while back at AEW for the AEW Heavyweight Championship. We now get to see them kind of do the surprise factor. And AEW has always done a really good job of having big surprises. I think the way the show is presented makes it feel bigger than just a wrestling show in a bingo hall. Like our show, it has the grittiness and the grind and that hardcore nature of independent wrestling with the presentation of a really good TV show, with all the storytelling elements that you get from WWE that you're accustomed to, and you get that with AEW. So I think the way this match is going to be presented, and of course, the match is going to be great. But when you have a company that where you like expect it to be good before you get there, you have a good feeling. You know what I mean? And AEW always does that. It's a great show. If you've never been, you're looking at a great show to come and see. Because the roster from top to bottom is stacked. You just mentioned some stuff on there, but, I mean, what we have right now is insane. Eddie Kingston, one of the top guys, Chikara, Ring of Honor, Combat Zone Wrestling. This guy has been all over the world, well known as an independent star. We have him on the roster. Great promo guy, brutal guy. He's going to be in action. It's a ton of stuff. AAWrestling.com. You can still get tickets there. Of course, you can buy tickets at the door. Irwin Eagles Club this Friday. Epic, our 10-year anniversary. And if any of you guys are listening outside the Chicagoland area, I believe on March 29th, we're going to be at Freester's Roadhouse as well, down south, in the far south suburbs, with a big show there as well.
All right, Kevin, I really do thank you taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk to me today. It was a fun discussion, and hopefully I get to see you on Friday. Can you plug in your information before we let you go?
Sure. You guys can find me on Twitter. It's at Kev Kellam, KEVKELLAM, or simply Google my name, and my articles will come up, which I know it sounds weird. Google me, yeah. You can follow me on Examiner.com. I write about WWE, TNA, and everything else going on in pro wrestling. If you read those articles, it helps my wrestling habit pay for my food and apartment habit. So do that. I'm a normal dude just like you trying to get by. And, of course, follow me on Twitter and Facebook and all that fun stuff. You can follow Pro Wrestling Examiner as well on Facebook. Simply search Pro Wrestling Examiner, and my articles will come up. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook. Read the articles. If you like them, share them. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Josh. I'd love to do it again, dude.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully I'll get to see you Friday. All right, buddy?
All right. Take care, man.
All right, see ya. All right, that was Kevin Kellam.